You're listening to SM Media, the home of exclusive West of Scotland Football League content. Hi folks and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media West of Scotland Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure as always to be your host, and I'm delighted in this week's episode to be joined by the manager of St Cadoc's, Martin Fellows.
Thanks for having me on, Scott. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, mate. Looking forward to this and getting your thoughts on the season so far. It's that time of year. It's the Christmas nights out. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a wee bit tender. As I just said to you, we were the players and staff are over in Dublin for the weekend, so got back a couple of hours ago. So that was a good weekend. It makes it better when you get 3 points on the Saturday, and I think since it was put in the diary, that's the only thing I could think about was we can't afford to drop points on the day of the night out. I've been there before, and especially when you're going away for a weekend. So no, it was more of a relief when we won on Saturday than anything else.
I remember speaking to you in the preview at the start of the season, and obviously you were coming into the West. You'd obviously spent a lot of time at East Kilbride, and I was at like how you were thinking you were going to adapt. How have you found it so far? We're kind of 6 months into the season. How's it been since you've been at St Cadoc's?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good. Obviously, we had a stuttering start to the season. We dropped 9 points in the first 4 games, and it was very much about finding our feet, and adjusting to a lot of players that haven't played in this league before, and none of the staff had worked in it before as well. So there was a wee bit of adjusting. It's a different league to the Lowland League. The games are played at a different pace, and I think it maybe just takes you a bit of time for us to find our own feet, and we're still finding our feet. We're by no means the finished article. We're getting better probably as each month goes on, but we've we've certainly picked up a wee bit and making good progress. And if you'd asked me where I'd want to be around Christmas time, I'd probably have given you the answer to where we're sitting at the moment. So yeah, as I say, the more pleasing aspect is the performances over results at the moment. We've had some good performances where we've not picked up results, but over the piece we've been relatively consistent since that first 3 games of the season. So yeah, I'm happy where we're at the moment, Scott.
I remember speaking to somebody just after he's played Glenafton, and they came back to me and said St Cadoc's so impressive, really good, worked the ball well. That was after that wee blip, and like from then you've been very impressive actually. Just looking through some of the results, like beating Gretna in the Scottish Cup, beating Pollock as well, winning on Saturday, beating Petershill with 3-3 with Beith. There's a lot of really good results in there. Beating Benburb at the start of the season as well. Would you say that kind of Benburb result was probably a turning point for you?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that game. The Benburb game was certainly, I feel like a bit of a catalyst for us. On the Saturday, we get beat off Rob Roy, and we were absolutely well beaten on the day. It can always be a difficult place to go, guys. Meadow. I'd been to a lot of games there,
Yeah.
and it was certainly we were beaten 2-0 on the day, and it was a total reflection of the game, and it was a wee bit of a moment for us. Where do we go for here? Do we want to keep going in this fashion, or do we want to we want to compete in every game? And we made a couple of changes after that. We changed the shape a wee bit, and we had a wee bit of a meeting with the players before the Benburb game, and we just reminded everybody where we want to be and the way we want to play, and a reminder that no game's going to be easy. Not that MD felt like that. There was a lot of talk with people coming into this league as well, that people think senior players, or ex-XPFL players come in here and they think it's going to be easy. I really don't agree with that sentiment. I think if you're working with good pros, I don't think if you're a good pro and you've played at the top level or a really good level, you don't get there through having lazy mentality. And it was just a wee bit of us finding our feet, and Benburb was an absolute watershed moment. I think Benburb were one of the hardest teams to play against at this level. My brother was on loan at Benburb last year, so I took in a lot of Benburb games, and Paul does a tremendous job with the resources he has there. And by the way, he's some real good players, some top firepower, and I felt that game was the wee catalyst for us, where we played really well. Even on the night, some things didn't drop for us. We lost a goal from a corner early on in the game, and Callum Law had some real good saves, and it was just a wee bit looking like with 70 minutes played, we're going to get beat again here, and get beaten 4 out the first 5 games, and then the ball was genuinely bundled over the line from a scrappy corner. I think it was down as an own goal, and it all of a sudden just kind of sparked our season into life a wee bit. And that's sometimes you just need something like that to happen in football. And we won the game 3-1, and yeah, we've not really looked back since. With the points we've dropped since then. I think it's Beath, Largs, and Arthurlie, and all have been. The 3 each game of Beath was an excellent game, and Beath are the champions, and that was a real good point for us. We went down to 10 men early doors against Largs and got a good point at a real difficult ground to go to. And then Arthurlie, we were, I think it was well documented, we were 4-1 up at half time, but a game we genuinely weren't playing well in. And I think everybody that's been involved in this league, if you're not playing well in games, you're not going to take anything out of them 90% of the time. So, look, we're in a decent place. There's a lot of scope for us to get better. We're trying to play a particular way, and it, sometimes can be difficult, and sometimes, it's easy when you're not playing well to stray away from it. Then it's our job just to keep the players on track and keep playing the way we want to play. And I'm sure we'll keep going and making small improvements month to month, and that's where I'd like us to be.
Yeah, one of your standout players. I'm just looking at your the goal scoring stats for the season so far. Neil McLaughlin sitting with 13. He's been such a key player as well. And you mentioned there something that I found interesting about a player who can play at this level, and he's done it his whole career. How important has Neil been to the side so far this season?
Massive, absolutely massive. And I had when I got the job and I was able to convince Neil to come with me. It was one that I knew was a banker.
Yeah,
I knew it was an absolute banker, that Neil would come to this level and be an absolute standout. And he's an incredibly modest guy, and would hate any form of criticism, any form of praise. Sorry, but he's just an absolute standout, and he was like that at East Kilbride for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He was a maverick player where you could just win your games when you're not playing well, and we relied on Neil for that as well a wee bit in times when we're not playing too well. And I use that Largs away game as a good example. We weren't really at it. We get goalie sent off after 20 minutes, and Neil just picks the ball up and beats 3 guys and effortlessly rolls it by the goalie. And we probably get a point in that game because of Neil. So he's been massive. He's been a great signing, and he's an absolute joy to work with. He's a great guy, and he comes into training Tuesday, Thursday. He works his socks off, and he's a top player at this level, and we're lucky to have him.
I think one of the things as well with how competitive the leagues are, and we say it all the time, but I'm sure you'll agree, it's really good if you can maintain that unbeaten run, because it just puts you so far up the league because of how competitive the games are. I mean, the results, we'll get into talking about a few of the results. It shows you just how tight the league is. Maintaining that unbeaten run, you can just see yourself just creeping up the table. That it must be eye catching as well when if you say you win 3 games in a row, you can shut up about 7 places.
Yeah. I suppose it works in the opposite way. If you lose a couple,
Yeah,
it makes you look as if you're crumbling, if you like. And I think that's the beauty of this league. And if you look at Beath, who are the reigning champions and a real top side, I seen them on Wednesday against Cairn, and they were second half. They were absolutely at the way you'd expect Beath to be. They played really well and were worthy of their win. Beath, I think, lose a game to Darvel, and they lose a game to, who was it now? It was Darvel and Clydebank, and everybody seems to think, oh, right, that's it now. Somebody else is going to kick on, but then they go and win another couple, and they put themselves back in kind of pole position, and it's the same for any team in this league. Darvel had their spell where they dropped a few points there, and then they seem to have settled and picked back up into winning ways, and now they're looking really strong on the table as well. So Pollock will be exactly the same. Pollock had a real strong run there for consistently winning games. They're good run in the Scottish Cup. They've lost their last couple, and all of a sudden, people question but Maxie's experienced enough at this level, and Pollock are a big enough club to know that nobody panics after losing a couple of games, because, as you say, Scott, if you win the next couple, all of a sudden you're right back in about where you want to be. So everybody seems to slight each other's throats around you in the league table. So that could be good and bad.
Yeah, we'll get into the results of the weekend in the league, because there's a few fascinating ones. But Junior Cup was on at the weekend as well, with the most of the remaining games, but we still didn't find out who St Cadoc's opponents were going to be. When I think we knew every other quarter final set in stone. Auchinleck will play Hurlford, Bellshill will play Atherley, Darvel will play Lochie United. I'm quite looking forward to that one, actually. And St Cadoc's obviously use either face Johnsonborough or Downfield on, right, you'll find out the opponents on January the 6th. That run as well, getting into the quarterfinals of the Junior Cup, how big is that for the club as well?
Yeah, it's big. The club, it's the first time the club's entered the competition.
Mm-hmm.
They spoke to me about at the start of the season, and it's something that we were really keen to try and make a dent in and be competitive in. And it's been good. We've had a couple of good trips to Dundee and Stonehaven. The club have looked after us with that as well, and given us a platform to be successful in those games. So yeah, it's really, really good. I know Jamie really well at Johnstonborough,
Mm-hmm.
so I know how desperate he'll be to get into that quarter final. And I think the Downfield, if I'm right, are doing really well in the
Yeah,
Dundee League.
a good side, yeah.
And we had a tricky tie up at Dundee Violet as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's certainly not a gimme for Jamie and his guys there. But they'll fancy themselves at Keene Park. It's a difficult place to go and win games of football. So yeah, it'll be interesting for us. Hopefully we can find out sooner rather than later. And there's no more postponements.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been postponement central, but we managed to get a good weekend of action in the west of Scotland. We'll start obviously at Cumnock St Cadoc too. We mentioned Neil McLaughlin again, but I heard a lot of rave reviews about how well you played on Saturday. What was the thoughts of it?
Yeah, that seemed to be the when I came off the pitch. That seemed to be the consensus that we played really, really well. And I thought we did. We had a decent performance on the day. I think I've seen us play better, to be fair, at points this season. At half time, it was 0-0. We did a lot of control in the game without having major clear cut chances. And we just reminded the guys at half time that we had a really similar game. I think it was the second day of the season against Cumnock.
Mm-hmm.
And we had great control, better chances at the start of the season we did on Saturday in the first half, and we lost the game 1-0 second half. So we had to remind them of that and say, we can get away with that, second game of the season if it becomes a reference point and we learn from it, and we know the next time that game or that scenario comes around that we make sure to win that game of football. And from the minute the second half kicked off, I thought we were going to win it. To be fair, we started really, really well. My assistant manager actually came up to me we were talking about some changes, and I just felt, I said to him, like, I think we're putting our foot to the pedal here. And I think just as the words came out of my mouth, Ronan Hughes whipped a cross in, and Neil had a real great header. So yeah, it was a good performance from us. It was probably as much as we've controlled the game, to be fair. We've had the other games where we've created maybe better chances and worked goalies more, but it was certainly probably the most control we've had in the fixture this season. And I think Cumnock will, I think will continue to improve. To be honest, under Murdy, a really experienced manager. They were a tough opponent for us on the day. Obviously, they've added in Alan McKenzie from us.
Yeah, I seen
I
that.
think
Yeah,
will do really well for Murdy.
yeah, still scored goals there.
Alan Cook, who was at Broomhill last year, has got a
Mm-hmm.
real good senior background, and then was at Gartkin at the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Cumnock will keep improving, and that was going to be a tricky game for us to make sure to navigate. And I'm just glad that we managed to get 3 points. And I think it's only 2 league games we've played in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I genuinely lose track of the fixtures with the postponements and stuff like that. So, but I think it was Pollock and Cumnock now back-to-back wins for us. So
Yeah,
important points for us to get on the board during the Christmas period.
yeah, absolutely. I was at Glenafton versus Clydebank. You could really write a book about this game. Honestly, there was everything in it. Clydebank took the lead 3 times. Glenafton, I thought I was really impressed with Glenafton, actually, the way they came back twice. A lot of fight. I was really impressed with Ryan. I spoke to Ryan Caddis after the game, and the way they kind of, he took the blame for the first half, but I didn't think it was his fault, but he's what I like about Ryan is that he's experienced at this level. He knows the league. I think they're going to be fine, Glenafton, to be honest with you. Obviously play Glenafton. There's a massive difference for the Glenafton side you face at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'd expect that, to be fair, and a tricky venue for us to go to as well. Second half of the season, it's coming up. Actually, I think it's either the end of January, the start of February.
Yeah,
but it's coming up reasonably soon. So yeah, I think it'll be a different beast to the one we played. Ryan will get a bounce, and I'm sure he'll after a while he'll get his own stamp on things down there. And big club, well supported club, and yeah, as you say, it's so difficult to try and work out. If you look at the bottom at the moment, there's real big clubs down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't put anything by these clubs, and over the Christmas period or January to strengthen and have a real fight second half of the season. So it's that unpredictable league that I don't think you can count MD out, and I don't think there'll be many people counting Glenafton out yet.
Yeah, Clydebank as well, obviously. Kieran Mulcahy with a double. Chris Truesdale coming in, and I want to get your thoughts on that signing as well, because that's another big player to add to that Clydebank side. That I think one thing that caught my eyes is the remarkable depth in attacking areas. They're solid at the back. Chris Truesdale's going to be a big player for them. He's obviously done it at a high level. Came for Bride, had a good spell at Darvel. And getting a player like that, it can just give you a boost as well, especially when you've had bad injuries like Clydebank had.
Yeah, I was at the Clydebank Beath game, and that was I've seen a lot of Clydebank. I know quite a few of their players. I worked with a few of them. I know Thomas Collins well, and I know Fraser Johnson. He was at East Kilbride, and obviously Nicky Lowe was at a couple of seasons in the Lowland League as well.
Yeah.
So my takeaway for that game was that Clydebank had real firepower, to be honest with you. And Craig will be a big addition for them. A good player, good experience at this level with Darvel, and I think he's went to East Kilbride, and he's done well there. But there's some real strong wide players there. And Nathan Flanagan, I think, is probably the best player in that league, and
100%.
And Andy Stirling and
Scott Ferguson's really high. Ferguson hit the mark,
they've got real strong players in those areas, and I'm sure Craig will want to play week in, week out, and that's maybe what sparked that move to Clydebank, because he's a top player at this level, and it'll be a good boost for them getting into the turn of the year, obviously sitting top of the league, and they'll be desperate to try and just maintain that level of consistency. It's because everybody talks about games in hand, or if they win their game in hand, or if XY win their games in hand, it look like this. But I genuinely think you can't look ahead to the next fixture in this league, because games in hand don't go for too much in this division, because everybody takes points off each other. So fair play to Clydebank, because they're consistently putting wins on the board and keeping themselves at the top end of that table. And I think Moff will be looking at You'll start to look at fixtures turn of the year. I think they've played 16 games.
Played 16, yeah.
I think they've played 16. So I think they'll get into that territory where they'll start counting games down. I think they'll start ticking them off and go, right, that's that ticked off home and away. And before you know it, you'll be into 12, 11 single figures. And if they keep maintaining that level of consistency, I'm sure they'll be right and about where they want to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Beath as well. Impressive 5-0 win away to Irvine Meadow. I'd imagine you'd have an eye on that. Kieran Diver with another double. Again, just Beath, similar to Clydebank, got a lot of firepower. Very consistent as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think MD can. I think you'd be crazy at the moment to start doubting Beath or thinking they're anything other than a real top team at this level.
Yeah.
And as you say, I think that takes Diver to 17 goals or something like that, which is an absolutely amazing.
A decent return in it for 12 games.
And as I said that when we played Beath, that it's testament to the job that Straney's done there, that you lose your talisman and Josh, and you think, that everybody thinks, Beath will maybe not be strong this year without Josh, and then Straney goes and finds an immediate replacement who's, I think, further ahead than Josh was this time last year. So real good players again. Forward areas. I see Aaron Mason scored as well at the weekend, and I think he was man of the match. And again, they brought in Alan Docherty, who I worked with his brother Stephen well, and I know Alan from when he was at Lithgow and Camelin and Stenhousemuir, and he'll be a good addition for them, and he'll very much suit them. And they've got lots of firepower. Blair Rossiter will be a loss for them. Blair's I worked with Blair when he was younger, and he's a real good player. He came up he'd been down south at a scholarship, and he came back up the road, and he maybe slipped under the radar for a few teams and signed to Beath, and had an excellent season, and he'll be a good signing for Jamie at Johnstonborough. So, but again, you can't count out somebody else stepping up to the plate, because I think Beath seem to have a real set way of playing, and sometimes, whether it's a Josh or a Blair, somebody steps out, there seems to be somebody there to step in and take their place. So, some big fixtures coming up for them, and obviously with us and them being the only team playing on Saturday, it's a big game for us as well. It's one of those ones everybody talks about game in hand, off you win games in hand, but a game in hand away to Beath, there's certainly not any points you can put the kettle on for, so we'll have to be at our absolute maximum to try and get into the game.
Yeah. Paula 1-2 away to Rob Roy. I'm quite surprised by that. That was Pollock's first win in the league since the middle of September.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where you can look at this league because the amount of cup fixtures.
That's it as well, yeah.
We've
I maybe played 3 games, I think.
Exactly that. So look, again, Pollock have real strength and depth. I think Darren Christie and Adam Ford are doing exactly what you would expect them to do. They're contributing. They're 4D, you give 4D any half chance, he'll take it. Done that against us. We played well against them actually on the night without being brilliant, and I think goals change. It's the old cliche, isn't it? Goals change games. We got goals when we were on top in the game, and then Pollock scored, and it flipped the momentum a wee bit, and we had to defend quite well, and we did that. Alan Lithgow was excellent on the night, and Alan's been a tremendous signing for us, and he earned his money that night. With Daz's quality of delivery and Fordy's, clinical ability in the box, we did well to make sure we won the game, and that was going to be a big fixture for us in Pollock because the points are so tight. But yeah, going away to Pollock's, going away to Rob Roy's a really difficult fixture as we learned really early in the season. Guys made all those conditions, not an easy 3 points to go and get, and I'm sure Maxi would do just the message would have been to make sure that game ended with 3 points to Pollock. So I'm sure they'll be delighted with that, and I don't think MD can count Pollock out either. I think they've got real top players. They've got a good manager, an experienced manager at this level. Good backroom team, and I think again, similar to me, I think you'd be crazy to count Pollock out. So, they'll want to make sure they put a run of fixtures together, but maybe just being disrupted a bit by the Scottish Cup and all stuff like that, and sometimes it can be a good distraction, and it probably has been for the club, and it's been really, really good. But I'm sure now they'll be focusing on just making sure they get back to winning ways in the league, and I'm sure they'll keep in about that mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Final game in the Premier Division was Lags 3, Troon 4. Old pal Mark Franklin's going for the halfway line as he does, but that's a big 3 points for Troon going away from home to Lags. Obviously, similar positions in the table, and Troon. I think with Troon, they've played well in a lot of games. I spoke to a couple of people at the club, and they've said that they've played well. They've just not got the reward some of the time, but I think it's a classic example. If anyone at this against any team can around about you in this league's massive.
Yeah, collector's item as well. I've seen a Chris Miller goal.
He scored as well, yeah.
So Midge doesn't score many goals, so I'm sure I know Midge really well, and
it's good to see him back. Good to see him back playing.
Definitely. Obviously, I'd put the boots away for retirement and took the role at Clyde, and had a spell as interim manager there where he did well, and I'm sure Midge didn't want to be out of the game, So when he left Clyde, I did think I wonder if he'd go back and play, and I'm glad to see he is, and I'm even more delighted to see him even get a goal on Saturday. So that is a real collector's edition. So, a good 3 points for Troon. Again, was that Troon were away from home, weren't they?
Troon were away, yeah.
Yeah, really difficult venue to go to at Largs.
Yeah.
Really difficult, and Darren has a difficult team to beat as well. So, yeah, a good 3 points, and I'm sure Troon will just expect to kick on as well. Made some decent signings. I seen they brought Mark Morrison in from East Kilbride as well.
Mark Morrison, yeah.
And some tough injuries. So, it'll be a big 3 points for them.
It certainly will. First Division, again, just a fascinating weekend in that league. Like, probably the result, Ashfield 4, Petershill 3. Petershill were in front twice. Still 3 points clear at the top of the league. Obviously, our teams have got games in hand. But Ashfield, Bobby Barr, still doing it.
Yeah, no, he is. He is. He was a top player in the leagues when he was at fourth on the likes, and I don't think his enthusiasm for the game's been curbed either. So he's scoring a lot of goals. That's a big result actually in the First Division, because when you look at the table, and there was an opportunity there with the Drummond Rutherglen drawn and Cowinan and Renfrew drawn for somebody to add that 3 points. So I'm sure the guys at Petershill will be really disappointed. They've been a real good run. I seen them against Kilburney last week, and they were really at it on the night. So they'll be disappointed, especially when they were leading. And they've got some real good players. I think Petershill have got a real good mix of experienced and also young players learning the game. They've got obviously Daz Miller there, who's
been their best player
scoring corners every week.
Yeah.
And Ross McCabe as well, who's an experienced player at this level. But they've also got young players in PJ McGiff, who I worked with East Kilbride. A real young player, Lorenzo Giovinazzi, who was at Broomhill 20s last year.
Yeah.
They've got Luke Ramsey, that was at Cumbernauld Colts under 20s last year, who won the league. So they've got a real balance of young and old. They've got Piers McGarvey on loan from us as well, who is not a young player, but at 22, you're certainly plenty of legs and energy, and Piers has got plenty of quality as well, and I'm sure he'll be massively contributing to PZ as well. So yeah, disappointing result for them. I know they'll be disappointed there after being ahead a couple of times, but Ashfield are doing quite well as well, and they're just keeping themselves in about that mix as well. And I see Sean Slavin scored again, I signed a new deal to 2025, so Sean was couldn't beef last year, and I seen him there in the Lowland League, and he was doing really well there. So it's no surprise to see him, scoring a lot of goals at Ashfield.
No, it certainly is. Johnson Borough, big game in that league on Wednesday night. Actually, Johnson Borough hosts go away to Colwyn, and Johnson obviously won 5-1 against Whitlands at the weekend. That'll be a huge game.
Yeah, not well. I'm going to go to that actually. I'm going to
I
go down.
might attend as well. Actually,
Tiff's a real good mate of mine. So I was speaking to him today, and I think that will be a right good game and a right good crowd on a Wednesday night
and
around
some
Christmas time.
turnaround. He's had some turnaround at the boss because I remember at the start of the season, they obviously results didn't go their way, and there was calls for their head. But I remember
Yeah,
a lot of winning fans were all that mindset. I said, no, Chris is a really good experienced manager,
yeah,
and he's managed to get it right.
yeah. I worked with Chris. I was Chris's assistant at East Kilbride for when he was interim there. Me and David McGregor,
Yeah.
and he was great to work with, and a real top manager. Ian Durant's in there with him as well, who the experience Ian provides. And I don't think there was. I spoke to Chris a lot at the start of the season. There was absolutely no panic at that point there.
Mhm.
And fair play to the club, going in a massive club and real good people down there as well. To get to know some of them through Chris, and the guys there really backed them, and quite rightly, because they've got a good management team there. They've got good players there. It was just a case of them. Again, similar. You go for the Premier into the first, and you've got to find your feet. Different league,
Yeah.
different tempo, different opposition, different ground you're going to. All that kind of stuff, and that all plays a part. But again, I had no doubts that Cowan were going to turn it around and be up the top end of the table at the end of the season. And Chris maybe not like me saying, but I'm sure he was delighted with people writing them off, because I know Chris and I know he'd had that in there with the guys, and he'd have been maximising performances out of the fact that people were writing Cowan off. So there's no, I don't think there's anybody writing them off anymore. They're right in that mix, and it's a really great league, that similar to
Yeah,
the Premier, where
unbelievable.
so tight, and big clubs in the first division.
And that's why I thought Chris was quite an impressive appointment there, because obviously his time at East Kilbride, there was a lot of pressure on him, and
Hmm.
he always handled it really well. And kind of knowing Stevie, I'd always talk to Stevie about it, and Stevie would always say, like, there's a lot of pressure on them, but he's the guy to get it right. And you can see that winning, especially coming down last season, massive pressure on him to get back up, and there's no better man to handle that pressure.
No, no. Again, he would relish that, and Ian Durant's standing there next to him as well. Guy who's won everything that's to be won in
Mhm.
Scottish football. And I'm sure that there would have been no panic stations at that point. We've got a player on loan there as well, young player Mark McClucky, who's
Yeah.
played almost every minute, and
Mhm.
he's I speak to Chris every week about him, and he's doing great there. And it's a great learning experience for him, and what a great place to go and play your football on loan. Good crowds, great facilities, great pitch to go and play on, and they've got some real good players. Like Dills Mackin, Gav Miller, all experienced. Mark Lamont, Ben Lewis, Blair McIntyre. They've got a real strong
Yeah.
squad and a real tight knit group. I was at their end of season, do there, and at the end of last season, and you could see that. And Chris is a master of that. He'll get everybody together. He'll have everybody singing off the same hymn sheet. Players, supporters, committee, every day, and I'm sure they'll continue to improve. I'm looking forward to seeing the game on Wednesday night, actually.
Yeah, that'll be a really fascinating contest. Second division, big wins for Cumbernauld. Cumbernauld won 4-0 away to Glasgow Uni on Friday night. Ardrossan 7-3 away to Perthshire. Kilsyth 4-1 away to Bonnet. Bonnet have appointed Gordon Pope as well. I'm quite fascinated by that.
Hmm.
They kind of top three at the moment. It's very tight at the top of the table. Cali Locomotives were obviously playing in the Junior Cup, so they've got games to make up. But you look at that league, there's a lot of real talent in there.
No, there is, and that probably again you drop into that league. It's more. There's a lot of good young players on show, and probably a good example of that is Kilsyth with Carlo. I've known Carlo for years, and I know how hard he works at recruitment and how many games he gets to, and there's no young players that he doesn't look at. And he had a real close eye on Broomhill's under-20s last year, who were a right good side, and he recruited boys from that team, and Ollie Black, Aaron Chowdhury, Ryan Milne was there at the start of the
Scored
season.
the hat trick, Aaron Chowdhury, weekend.
Yeah, he did. I think he's had a wee bit of an injury, being in and out a wee bit, but again, good player. But they're all young players. They're all 2003s or 2004s. Some of them could still be playing under 20 football,
Yeah.
and they're now in there and at Kilsyth with Carlo and fighting to be up the top end of that table. And I'm sure they will all be better for that experience. And Carlo's an experienced coach and manager. As I worked with East Kilbride with Martin Laughlin, and he's a real top guy as well. So it's no surprise to me they're doing quite well. And as I say, Carlo's so hard working when it comes to stuff like that. He'll not be one of these guys to sit in the house. If you're at games, you'll see him all the time, and I'm sure he'll have his eye on the next kind of group of young players that he'll be trying to get in there and make them better. And Kilsyth have got a good thing going at the moment, and Cali Locos as well. We played them in the cup,
Mm-hmm.
a real tough game, getting some good players there. You know that, and they're I think with everything that happened with Rossvale and them having to rebrand, everybody felt maybe going to be a really difficult period for them, but the guys there have done a great job to make sure they're really competitive, you know, with limited resources, you know. So they're, I think they were incredibly unlucky at the weekend to have been 2-0 up so late in the game, and they'll be absolutely gutted to have been out of that Scottish Junior Cup in that fashion. But, you know, I'm sure they'll use it as fuel to go and push them on in the league. And as I say, some good players. Seen them a few times this season, and there's 3 or 4 there that stand out. And I'm sure Kevin will be fighting quite hard to keep them at the club. And you know, it looks like a good place to play a football, good facilities. So it's an interesting league that as well. It's a good mix of I've got a lot of good young players there that will all be trying to earn that, you know, that step up, whether it's up to higher divisions or up to the leagues or the Lowland League, you know. So that can make for interesting watching.
Muirkirk are unbeaten in the last 5 games. They won 1-0 at home to Maryhill. I've been really impressed with them in recent weeks. Obviously, Ross has been in there. Very impressive. Obviously, at 20s as well with Ben Bobby, was that? And
yeah, it was Ben Bob. Yeah,
very good. He's been very good since they've come in there.
Yeah, no, Ross has done a great job. I know Ross well, played against his teams a few times, and you know, he kept that nucleus of players together and took them at Muirkirk. And I think similarly, maybe had a wee period of adjusting at the start of the season, but have really kicked on. And again, some real good young players there. I think that league, probably the guys in that league will all be, you know, we're trying to shield their players as much as possible for prying eyes, because you name a few, Muirkirk, Kilsyth, Cali Locos, you know, that it's a breeding ground, if you like, for people to go and take a chance on young players. And you know, Ross is exactly the same. He took a whole team of young players there, you know, and fair play to him for doing that. And he's done a good job, and I'm sure they'll continue to improve. Again, most of those boys are all fours, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they could all be still playing under 20s football. So, you know, it's a testament to them that they've went into that league and really held their own. And Bonington obviously started really well, and they've had a change of manager. And I know the guys down there, and real good setup down there.
Brilliant
You know,
setup.
the facilities they've got down there, and I'm sure they'll now be hoping to a new manager and get things back on track a bit. So I don't think you can count them out of that league. Obviously, Ardrossan are absolutely flying. They're absolutely flying. So you'd expect them to go and just keep kind of pushing on, and then it's up to everybody else to really, you know, keep the pace and keep close to them and fight for those other couple of spots.
No, absolutely. Other results in there, Vale Clay 1-2, away to Yoker. They were 1-0 down. Wishaw 2, St Anthony's 2. And in the third division, big result for Greenock Juniors. They won 3-1 away to Irvine Vicks. Beckley, Black and Duffy with the goals. Big result to push them up to second place. Obviously, Bellshill look to be really going well in that league. I think they've only lost 1 game. That's a big result for Greenock, obviously, against a team that will be looking for promotion as well.
Yeah, definitely. And another a win for Bellshill in the Scottish Junior as well, put them into the quarterfinals. So, as you say, sometimes these cup runs, you know, can detract, and other times they can really push you on in your league season. And I'd imagine Bellshill are having the best of both worlds at the moment, where they're flying really well in the league, and now they've got a real good cup run as well, and to keep everybody focused and keep everybody, you know, at their maximum. So, yeah, again, interesting league. You know, as you say, the results you can't really put the kettle on for any results in that league. It's a good point for Martin at Wishaw there at the weekend. You know, he's went in there and taking on a difficult task where they're at, and slowly but surely they're starting to get some results here and there as well, and that's a good point for them against the Ants, because the Ants are no pushovers either in that division. So yeah, again, a lot of young players at Wishaw, and you look at them with their under-20s are flying high as well, and I know there's a bit of involvement between quite a lot of involvement.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
with their under-20s playing a Friday and then involved in a Saturday, and you know, so fair play to them, because they're trying to do things the right way there as well. I know Martin's a good guy, so you know, hopefully they can kick on as well and make for an interesting league and try and stay away for those bottom 3 spots.
Yeah. Other results in the third division: Glasgow United 3, Port Glasgow 1, Girvan 1, Lanark 2, 4-4 between Dalry and Lesmahagow, Kells 0, West Park 3, Ardere 1, 3-2. Any of the results catch your eye in that league?
I think another, obviously Dalry with their result in the Scottish Cup against Pollock. And I'm sure they hope to have kicked on for there. And I know the results have been a wee bit up and down since then. But again, good group of young players. A few of the boys that were at Arthurlie under-20s there, the Catlow brothers and Fraser Cowan as well, and they'll be desperate to try and kick up that league and get themselves in amongst it. But it's a tight division. It's like all the leagues, to be fair. I'm sure you'll move on to the fourth, but that's an equally competitive division as well. So, yeah, no, good games makes for good watching.
Fourth division, I think, is a really, really competitive league. And I think there's a lot of really sides. I want to get your thoughts on a few of them. Glenvale won 4-0 at home to Eglinton. They've been very impressive so far this season.
Yep, and again, the further down the league you go, the younger the players seem to be. It'd be interesting if you could look at an average age of the players from the Premier to the fourth. But I think once you get to the fourth, it's really, really young, and some interesting teams that are all trying to make their way. Rossvale, EK Thistle, they're all full of young players, hungry, looking to get better. And it's at Glenvale, as you say, have been really good. St Peters have been really strong, a real strong community club. A lot of younger teams, a good under-20 setup. It's the beauty of the pyramid. Now that teams, Giffnock have entered in there. I think Giffnock are an absolutely huge boys club. And they have a girls section. They've got their new stadium on the go. They have the opportunity to be a real big football club. And the pyramid gives teams the opportunity now to go into those divisions and go and fight for their promotion spots. So the fourth certainly is a better league this year with the additions that have been made and everything's starting to balance itself out a wee bit more now. I think there's two teams kind of Kilsyth and West Park kind of ran away with it last year, but it's really tight now this season, and there's not much between the teams. So seen taking in a few of the games in there, and it's I don't think you could make a prediction of who win that just yet.
No, you can't. Thornton obviously won. They won 2-0 away to Lugar. Rossvale beating Royal Albert. Royal Albert as well. We spoke to Connor last week, and I seem to have jinxed them because I think they'd won 5 in a row. He comes on here and they lose. So
you better not do the same as us then.
I know. But you mentioned Giffnock. Giffnock as well. 4-2 at home to Saltcoats. Saltcoats, obviously, Stevie Wilson's went in there. They're a side that have really struggled, but I think that he's the right sort of guy. Easterhouse have got a new manager as well. There's just a lot of sides. Like, you look at that league, you would have probably at the start of the season thought, right, maybe 4 or 5 teams. But now there's, at least 10 teams there that have improved since the season started.
Yeah, I know Stevie well also, and that's a real tough job for him to take on. But I think he'll go in there and certainly make improvements, and I think he's done that already. And he'll go and find young players, he'll go and find hungry players, and he'll start to really try and drag them up the table. And that's a good result, for Giffnock at the weekend, as you say, and touching on Giffnock, a similar club to ourselves, where they have a huge amount of young players at the club, and now a pathway for them to all go and try and become first team players, which is great for them. And I see Thistle got a point as well at the weekend, and I think they had quite a lot of bodies missing as well. Yeah. So I'm not spoken to Aaron, but whether to find out that's a good or a bad point. But with the players they're missing, I'm sure maybe a point will not be the worst result for them, and it keeps saying about the mix. And Josh at Rossvale has done a good job in there. He was at St Cuthbert's last year, which again, with the difficulties in travel there, fair play to him for taking that. And I'm sure he'll be happy to be up the road now and again at a big community club in Rossvale. And I seen Josh. I met him last Wednesday actually. So I've known Josh for a long time through playing against these teams, and they're always good teams, and he's always organised and knows his stuff. So it's good to see teams on the up taking the chance, and guys like Josh as well. And he's now an experienced manager. He's been at St Cuthbert's, he was at Albion Rovers, he was at Clyde before that. So it's no surprise to see his Rossvale team, competing at the end of the table that I'm sure Josh will want to be at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that looks very fascinating. But we'll move into what's coming up this weekend. Not many league games, but there's one that particularly catches the eye involving yourselves. Bede versus St Cadoc at Bellsdale Park. It's really exciting. Could be potentially a game of the weekend. What's your thoughts on it?
Certainly with the game of the weekend in the Premier, with it being the only.
I think it's only one. I don't think there's many games in Scotland. So, in Scotland, I would say if there was a game I'd go and watch, it would be that. Yeah,
look, both teams are behind a bit in fixtures, so
yeah,
I'm sure they'll both be happy to get it played. So yeah, as I said, I seen Bede on Wednesday against Gartcairn, and second half they looked back to, not that they'd come away from it, but they were certainly at their best. Pardon me. In the second half against a real good, difficult to beat Gartcairn team, by the way. So look, we know how difficult a game that's going to be.
Yeah.
you know, with the quality B they've got, as you touched on, Diver, Aaron Mason, Andy Monk, Carlo Monti. It's a real strong team. And again, maybe the plaudits seem to go to all the front ones, but Scott Ruff and Danny Neal as two centre backs are tremendous. You know, Danny's young as well, but Scott's even younger and looks to improve. You know, from going for the bench 20s to, I think it was Muirkirk.
Muirkirk went to, yeah.
It was Muirkirk, wasn't it? I went to Muirkirk, and then, you know, training spotted him there and brought him up to be, and he's done great there. And as I say, Danny Neal next to him is, you know, a top player. He was I remember from his Harmony Road days, actually, where he was an absolute standout there, and then went to Kilburnie and has really kicked on. So the front ones probably get more the plaudits would be, because they score so many goals and they're so good to watch at times. But the ones at the back, I think, are equally as important to their success, and they've got a real experienced top manager at this level in Straney. You know, so difficult fixture for us. We're in a good place for it. Saying that, you know, we've not got any injuries, or we've got one at the moment with Lewis McTaggart, who will probably come a wee bit early for Lewis. But apart from that, we're in a good place. Bob McHugh missed the game for us on Saturday through working. He joined the police, Bob.
Right.
Where he was unavailable for that game. He misses a couple of Saturdays a year, and that was one of them. So he'll be back in and available for that game for us, and he had a real good game against them at home. And we've got, you know, forward players are firing for us at the moment, and Neil scoring goals, Daniel McManus is scoring goals, Reece Maguire scoring goals. So yeah, we're in a good place for it as well, and it's a real difficult venue. I've only been there once in pre-season to play that as, and it's a difficult place to go to. So, but we're in as good a place as we can be for it. We'll get back to training tomorrow night and try and get some of the doubling out of boys' legs, and then we'll get in on Thursday and get a real good look at, you know, putting our plan together for trying to take 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'm wishing you all the best for that game, Martin, and the rest of the season ahead. It's been an absolute pleasure for you, mate. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed that.
No, thanks for having me on, Scott.
Top
Really
man.
appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. If you want more Scottish football content, subscribe to our Patreon. And have a good Christmas, folks. We'll see you in the new year. Cheers.